This is Barbas, just doing God's work.
Dante, get out of there! You're in danger!
Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my DMC, Dante Must Die Difficulty video walkthrough. This is mission 8, and it's entitled Eyeless. So this is an interesting change of pace from what we've been doing. We're now trying to find Phineas's eye. I think he's called Phineas, that's the crazy black demon guy with a cane, who I'm not even sure why he's in the story for the amount of stuff he does. I kind of thought he was going to pop up in the end and do something important, but he doesn't. He just seems to be a bit of filler in the middle, and he's quite funny, he's decent, just kind of pointless. But what we're doing here is we're trying to find the nest of the flying crazy harpy ladies. I think that's actually their name. I think they're called harpies. And as we go down here, you can tell we're in a subway because we're being attacked by upside down trains. And when you land into this next arena, there's going to be a fight. And the one thing you want to bear in mind is if you knock them up into the train, you can get some pretty quick kills. And it's going to be the main strategy that I employ when we take on the Dream Runner who's about to pop up after this. So as per normal, demon dodge to get the boost, then I chain it directly into the ground pound with Eric's. It gets me straight to the Triple S ranking, it does some massive damage, and then you can go from there and play around with some of the weapons, gathering people together, all that kind of good stuff. Because that's the cool things about these games. Everybody's going to fight differently, everyone's going to have their own go-to combos, and there is a lot of things to do. The combos in the game are fun, they're not too difficult, they can be easily chained. You'll notice that you can actually do the first 2 hits of Rebellion, and then hold the left trigger, and the third hit will be as if you'd done the first 2 hits with your angel weapon. So you could, there's some really organic ways to chain and link the combos together if you're experimenting. It is a lot of fun. A lot of people who are big fans of the old Devilmaycry are saying that the combat on this is nowhere near as sophisticated or requires as much mastery, and that is true, but it's only true because they've taken out a shit ton of moves. That's literally it. They've combined moves, they've given moves to certain functions that were different before, and it's all because you can't lock on. I think that's the main reason why the combat suffers. Because if you didn't know, the lock on button was a modifier, and the modifier itself gave every weapon, and obviously there was quite a lot of weapons, it gave it a subset of moves, and that's on top of the standard ones, so as you can tell, everything had the potential to have more moves. But these are the Dream Runners, and you'll notice there's 2 of them. Don't get easily spooked by this, because you do fight 2 of them quite a couple times throughout the game. But you'll notice the train is your best friend here, so you want to stay in the middle of the room and lure them into the centre. I'm going to be doing the ground and pound to try and knock them up, dodge them, knock them up, that kind of thing. Because the train does a lot more damage than you do, and it's guaranteed damage. It's none of that bullshit where they parry, because the last time I checked, you can't parry a train. And hopefully you'll be able to deal with these 2 without too much trouble. The only thing you want to bear in mind is because of the nature of the teleport that these guys do, they don't necessarily teleport where you're looking. They can teleport to the left or the right of you, and swinging the camera is extremely difficult, so you can only really go by the noise they make when they come out of it. And I was playing on mute, so all of this is visual. But when you're playing, if you don't see them and you hear them, make sure to evade, just to stop them from doing damage, because nothing on this game damages you like it used to on Dante Must Die, but it's all a hell of a lot more damaging than it's been, previously. But it is a much easier game, so you are allowed to do a lot more penalties, a lot more mistakes, so some people will be happy with that, some people won't, but you'll notice just like then, in previous games that might have took half my life, and see, he kills himself because of the teleport on the train. But it's an interesting fight. It's nice to have the dynamic environment working with you as opposed to against you, because there's a lot of moments on this game where the environment's going to be not to your benefit whatsoever. But keep on moving down, chasing towards the layer. And I've done this mission on Heaven and Hell, and it's so quick because the pistols, when an enemy doesn't have a shield and you die in one touch, the pistols are they're just a wrecking crew. It's hilarious. It really is. But here we are anyhow. This is an interesting room. Not only is it possibly the most fragile and weakest glass I've ever had the pleasure of standing on in a game, but it's pretty much designed so that you can't stand for too long and you do a lot of air juggle stuff. So what I do is simple. I fall down quite a lot because I'm an idiot, but I just spam the angel whip and shotgun. 2 shots from the shotgun blast is going to knock the wings off the harpies. They'll either fall through the glass or fall into the glass. Either way, the glass is going to smash. And then you can proceed to hook to the next guy. And you can stand in the middle and pull them to you, but obviously it doesn't work so well with the harpy ladies because they're a pain in the ass and stuff like that. If the lock-on was slightly better, there would probably be less lazy deaths where you try and whip to something and the detection's just not quite there because, you know, something's out of your vision and the lock-on itself seems to suffer when you can't see your target. And this is not the only time that the whips themselves seem to fail. When you're doing the platforming, the amount of times where you will press to whip, Dante will do the animation of whipping, but it'll be the really flaccid one that doesn't connect to anything, and you just end up falling doing it 3 or 4 more times and looking like a clown. Or doing that, what I just did then, where, because there's no invisible barriers, I just ran off the edge. Which is a pain in the ass, but you've just got to deal with it. But in the defense of, you know, the angel whips and the demon whips not working as intended, or not being as sound as I would personally like, the Devil Bringer on Devilmaycry 4, that did not have the best detection. It seems to be one of those things where it's not easy to do, to get that feeling as punchy as it needs to be. Like, one of the things that is extremely minute but catches me out every so often is when I'm holding the trigger in a transitional period. For instance, if I'm doing a combo that links into a move and I suddenly start holding one of the triggers to do that designated, you know, demon or angel ability, and the game input doesn't have enough time to keep up with the speed of the combat, so it'll do, you know, an attack of the Rebellion as opposed to the Osiris when I wanted to do the Osiris, or I want to do the drop with the Arbiter, but I end up doing it with Rebellion because it hasn't picked up on the input. I think a lot of that is down to the triggers, because we don't have, you know, instant press triggers. They're not like buttons. They're you know, bloody, there's amount of plunger to them, the amount of pressure you put on them, because the class has 2 different inputs, and while it does make it feel a little bit like a gun, I think it's not the most precise button that they can map things to, so I've never been the biggest fan of them. I was, you know, I preferred the Nintendo 64 a lot when it came to the trigger, because it was essentially just a button grafted to a trigger, as opposed to, you know, deplunging it and having to fully get all the way down before it registers what you want to do. That right there is the Witcher's AoE that gets rid of her shield. You'll notice I'm making sure that the Butcher is not on camera, because if he is, he's going to throw shit at me, and he's already been a bit of a nuisance. We just want me and this lady, we want to smack these back at her. There goes the shield, there goes the stun, here goes... Oh no, I've not quite figured out that punching her into the floor with Eric's is probably the most successful way to deal quick damage. But this is still the experimenting phase of the game, where everybody's figuring it out, so I'm not too concerned with my performance. And as I've said previously, this is a guide to help anybody beat the game. So it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be flawless. Those videos come later once you've figured things out, once you've had a lot more time with the game. And those videos will come because, like, you play the older ones, and some of the older ones are just insanely difficult, and people have done them to that, so, you know, there'll probably be no hesitation before they start doing them to this one. Because never underestimate gamers. That's the one thing that game developers just can't do. People are too good. They really are. And it is amazing. But there's his animation, there's his self-destruction, and that is the subway fight over. So now we can proceed back through the tunnel chambers to good old Phineas. And I think we're going to get attacked by those stupid spinny, whatever the hell they are, that decide to fling at you like boomerangs that you have to shoot. And I'm not even entirely sure what they're about or why they're there. And I find it really funny that Dante gets so surprised when he first sees one. This is a guy who knows he's not human, who knows, you know, that the world is not as it seems, and yet he's freaking out every time he sees giant luminous boomerangs, which always seems kind of funny. But a couple of elite Stygians down. The fastest way to traverse on this game is to do the jump and then the air dash. Obviously you don't have to. That right there is one way of getting rid of those enemies. It's not the way I would recommend, but you know, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And then when we drop down here, we're going to be taking on a Tyrant and I think a Dream Runner. I think is the dude that's on Dante Must Die. Yes, it is, because the camera pans and you see the cheeky bastard. Look at him. Yeah, this is one of those fights that if the Dream Runner wasn't here, you would not even bat an eyelid, because the Tyrants are pretty damn simple. But because he's here, do you see that? That's an air counter that he does. And what it reminds me of is anyone who used to play as Guile when you verse them on the multiplayer of Street Fighter. Whenever you jumped, you'd have that one friend who played as Guile who would do the jump throw and counter your jump every time. And you'd be like, oh, Guile, you bastard. That's what the Dream Runner's like. Every so often he'll just catch you in the air. But what I've noticed is when the game kind of slows down the moment he captures you, and if you evade it, you can get the demon dodge off it quite reliably. That right there is his fancy two-handed attack, which can be evaded. Everything he does can be evaded. I just wish there was, you know, more awareness on when he's going to recover, because the amount of times, like, I mean, look at that. Didn't even get the stun in then to start to land any hits because of just how fast he is in the camera, and oh, so many things. This enemy is too fast for this game. So I start being a funny bugger. I pull out the grenade pistol, start hitting him with a few of those, but it doesn't quite go the way I wanted. So I inevitably pop the devil trigger, and I'll deal with him that way. But one thing I'm quite curious about is the Vergil Downfall DLC, which obviously should have been gameplay, because this game is short, and it's short for a Devilmaycry as well, which is a little concerning. I think the lack of bosses definitely kills some of the length, because boss fights in this game tend to run their course a little bit too long. They overstay their welcome, which is a shame. But that's just because, I mean, I'm trying to think why they did what they did with the boss fights. Look at me trying to hit him with the grenade pistol. I can't even tell if it was working. I don't even know if it was fully upgraded at this point, but my biggest problem with using that is to detonate them you have to press A and X, and I've just got something against pressing those buttons at the same time. It's been a while since I've played Tekken and the like, and I don't find that natural at all. That being said, if I'd have played this after playing Ninja Gaiden 2, I'd have probably been spot on, because I think Wind Path and Guillotine throws were that button, so I'd have been definitely spot on with that stuff. But as I was saying, the Vergil's Downfall, when they was originally promoting it, they made it sound like it was coming out the moment that the game dropped, but it's not. It's going to come out 4 weeks from today. And the reason I know that is because the code I own it, and the code from the retailer that I bought the game from, they said they're going to dispatch it 4 weeks to the day, which is a little disappointing because I wanted to get my hands on Vergil immediately, because I really enjoyed playing as Vergil because of the katana, and anybody who's, you know, knows me as a person or knows me through the channel knows that I'm a fan of katanas, be it in any games. I don't know what it is. I like them. But thank you for watching anyhow, guys. I'll see you in the next one, and you take care now.